Thank you guys for joining us. Dylan, thank you for hosting. Thank you, Elevate, for sponsoring. We're continuing now. This week's Parashat is Parashat Bamidbar. We're also leading up to Shavuot. What Shavuot is almost a week away. So we're getting up to it. So let's try to maybe find a connection between the two. The Parashat, we're starting a new book of the Torah. Bereshit, Shemot, Vayikra, Bamidbar. The fourth book of the 5 books of the Torah. More than halfway done. And the Parashat begins, the new book begins with a census. The Torah counts the Jewish people yet again. And the Pasuk says, Kol yotzet tzava beYisrael, tifkedu otam letziv otam. Anyone that goes out to war in the Jewish people, you shall count them for letziv otam. Will translate loosely as for their service. Okay, we'll use it like that. Now, the calendar is set up in a way that Parashat Bamidbar will always be read before Shavuot. Always will be before Shavuot. What's Shavuot all about? Why, first of all? Because in this week's Parashat, we count Bnei Israel again. The Torah goes through a census of the Jewish people. And the idea the author of this book, of Apirfion Shlomo, writes, is the same way that there's a census in this week's Parashat. We should know before Shavuot that every Jew should know that Hashem is counting us, that Hashem cares about us, that each one of us individually is important to Hashem. We know Shavuot is the holiday we receive the Torah. We commemorate the receiving of the Torah every year on Shavuot. Again, Pesach is the Geulah, is the redemption. Sukkot is commemorating the Ananei HaKavod, is the happiness, is combating materialism. We've spoken about that at length. What's Shavuot all about? Shavuot, some people just have dairy foods. But what is dairy foods that don't do anything? Shavuot is much more than just dairy food. Shavuot, the essence of it is a holiday that we receive the Torah, and it's a reconnection. It's the Chazal talk about it like a couple who's getting married and gets married again and married again. Like every anniversary, they reaffirm their vows by the secular people who do that. So the Torah is highlighting, the calendar is built in a way that this Parashat of Bamidbar is always read before Shavuot, because the census reminds us Jews that before we receive the Torah, we need to remember that Hashem cares about all of us. Even if you think you're nothing, even if you think, who am I? What am I? I have no contribution. I'm not the biggest rabbi. I'm not the richest person. I can't give that much tzedakah. I'm not influential. I can't inspire others to do good. Even if you think like you're nothing, like you're small, the reminder is before Shavuot, the census counted every single person of age to go to war, let's say. The same way that each person matters, so too today. Every person before receiving the Torah makes a difference. Without each one of us, without you and without me and without you, the whole Klal Yisrael, all of the Jewish people, is not complete. We're lacking something. And this is the first introduction to Shavuot that I think gets us in the right mind frame. And we have to know this. Rabbeinu Tam, he asked a sounds funny, but a theological question, we'll call it, a philosophical question. How come animals are always facing down, but humans are always facing up? Meaning, when God created the world, there's a rhyme and reason behind everything. We might have never thought about this, but there's reason behind everything. When He created an animal, why are animals always looking down? And why are humans standing upright with our head up? Okay? And Rabbeinu Tam answered, HaBehema nafsha v'gidula mina afar. The animal, its entirety, its soul, its livelihood, and its growth is all from the dirt. Therefore, it's drawn after the ground. It's drawn after the floor. It gets its sustenance. It gets its food. It gets everything it needs. Everything's from the ground. Whether it's eating grass, or eating other carcasses, or whatever it is, they're always facing down because that's how they lived. That's where everything comes from. And therefore, it's drawn to the ground and their head is always face down. But mankind, says Rabbeinu Tam, we have a neshama. We have a soul, but not the soul that animals have. It's not really, animals don't have a soul. Animals have just a living entity that animals have to be alive. But us humans, us Jewish people, have a neshama that is extremely, extremely special, extremely holy, whatever. We're not going to get to the neshama now. But this comes from a very, very high place, a very holy place, a very separated place, a very, very lofty place. And therefore, our heads are standing upright, facing up, drawn after the source of our living, the source of our lives, which comes from above. A Jew has to have this balance always in his mind. He needs to walk, we need to always walk with our heads lifted up. We always have to be proud, we always have to be understanding. The Pasuk says, Seu et rosh kol adat bnei Yisrael. Seu is how it was a language for count every single Jew. But Seu also means raise up, lift. Lift each person's head. Why? Because us Jews, we have to literally lift our heads up. But figuratively, understand that each one of us is integral to this equation that we call Klal Yisrael, the Jewish nation, the Jewish people. And the biggest flaw and the biggest problem is sometimes we forget sight of this. What am I? Who am I? I'm not the most religious person. I'm not the most observant person. I'm not the smartest person. I'm not the richest person. I'm not a likable person. We make excuses that just hinder us from being the best us we can be. And the message that the author is trying to get across, and I think is very applicable, is as we go into Shavuot, where we receive the Torah, it's integral and it's crucial for all of us to remind ourselves that no, we all matter. Each one of us matters. Hashem doesn't need anything. When we talk about God, it's just we're using analogies in our brain so we can comprehend. He doesn't need anything. But Hashem wants us to be close to Him. He wants us to do the right thing. It doesn't affect Him whether we do or not. Again, He doesn't have any wants, needs. If you quantify Him, then you're making Him limited, and then He's no longer God. But in our restricted minds, we need to feel that we matter. What I'm doing in my office, what I'm doing at my home, what I'm doing in high school, in college, in the middle of nowhere, matters. And everything I do, Hashem is counting. Hashem is keeping track, and He cares about it. But the most important thing is to realize that from every single one of us, every single person, Hashem doesn't necessarily want the same thing of. All of our service of Hashem, again, we have the same blueprints. We all share the same guidelines. But how we relate to God in this world with those guidelines being the blueprints for our lives is allowed to vary. Not everyone is meant to become the chief rabbi. There's a reason why there's only one chief rabbi. There's a reason why not everyone is meant to be teaching. There's a reason why not everyone is able to study all day long. Doesn't mean we're all exempt from studying a little bit, from doing mitzvot, from doing tzedakah, from doing chesed, but it means that we don't all have the same responsibility and the same goals from Hashem in this world. And it's something integral we all have to understand. If someone doesn't have the funds or the means to become the supporter of its tzedakah organization or the community or an education or whatever it is, that's not what Hashem wants from him. Hashem wants him to contribute his minimum that he can, whatever it is at his level, but it's not his responsibility to worry about how is the community going to grow and afford the finances. Instead, he needs to find something that he's good at and give back of that. You have a weeknight available, you volunteer, you go do chesed. You're passionate, you're persuasive, you get people to start coming to Shiurim, to start people to come to Kanisa, you get involved with the boards and the committees, whatever it is, there's a million examples that all of us need to understand as we get older and we start to mature. Find our strengths and our weaknesses and use our strengths to connect to Hashem. Use our strengths to influence positively, to bring good into this world. The author concludes with a beautiful idea. He says, the Maharal Prague מבאר שהקדוש ברוך הוא רוצה את הניסיונות של כל אחד ואחד. Not only are we all different and have our own nuances, the Maharal Prague says something fascinating. He says, Hashem wants all of us with our challenges and our tests. Meaning, if one person has a difficulty with keeping kosher, another person with praying, another person with lashon hara, another person with giving tzedakah, that challenge is what Hashem wants us to work on and overcome. In essence, that might be our contribution in this world. That might be where we have to work on and improve. Some people, it might be with their bad influences to others, and they know that, but they can't stop it. Whatever it is, our challenges, our tests, our nisyonot is not something that we have to shy away from, but it's in fact, says the Maharal Prague, so the thing we have to overcome and work on, because very often that's exactly where our skills lie. And if sharut sheyushne anashim imotam nisyonot, it's virtually impossible that there'll be two people, two Jews, that have the same challenges, the same struggles. We say it all the time. Don't judge a person until you're in his shoes. It's very important. It's very simple, very profound. Because none of us know what other people are going through. No one knows what it's like at home. No one knows what it's like with the siblings. No one knows what it's like at work. No one knows what health issues they are. No one knows what psychological issues there are. Everyone has baggage. Everyone has problems. And no one has the same problems. No two people have the same problems. So it's not our job to be like someone else. Our job is to take the cards we were dealt and make the best of those cards. And it's something that in our generation, I say it all the time and I keep repeating it because it really is the struggle of our generation. Baruch Hashem, all of the blessings that we have, the parnasah, the money, all that is amazing. We're living in such beautiful, lavish times. But it also comes with our challenges that the previous generation didn't have. It comes with people constantly comparing, constantly looking at others. Oh, they have that, I want that. And the Maharal Prague is saying that, and I'm not even talking about they have, so I want. We're talking about even your problems. No two people have the same problem. So don't compare yourself to someone else and say, oh, he can overcome his problem, why can't I? Because it's a different problem. It might disguise itself the same way, but the nuances, the upbringing, all of the influences, all the variables in the person's lives contribute to where they are today. So it's very important for us to understand our problems are unique to ours, and it's our job to overcome them and work on getting better from them. The Mishnah says, "If ein anili mili," if I'm not for myself, who will be? Pirkei Avot. It's a very powerful line. Zach, you saw it, right? You've seen it. It's a very beautiful line. If I'm not for myself, who will be? You did assume on the Shiur Pirkei Avot? No, not yet.
No, we finished it. We never did this.
Never did assume. Pirkei Avot, right?
Yep.
If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? The Chidushei Harim says, "She'im ata lo temale et hatafkid hazeh be'avat Hashem, en mi sheyaseh et zeh." It's a beautiful idea. If you don't fill your purpose with this service of Hashem, there's no one that will do that. We give this analogy all the time, and I'll repeat it again. After 120, we're going to get to upstairs. Hashem is not going to ask us, how come you weren't him? How come you weren't Rabbi Ben Chaim or Ovadia Yosef? How come you weren't even your sibling? He's going to ask us, how come you weren't the best you could have been? How come you took the easy way out? How come you were lazy? How come you didn't accomplish? There's going to be an imaginary board with all of the things that you could have accomplished had you put your mind to. And he's going to show us this building or this tzedakah organization or whatever it may be and say, this thing never came to this world because you took the easy way out. And it's a powerful analogy. It always shakes me to the core because I had this same issue. When I started getting excited and wanting to be involved in the community, I didn't necessarily want to be a rabbi. I wanted to just help. Rabbi Chaim pushed me to be the rabbi, and even that was like, oh, okay, let's see what happens with it. I wasn't even like fully into it until very recently. Even now, I'm not really There's much better and greater than I. But my biggest dilemma was always, what contribution can I have to this system? We have Rabbi Chaim in the community. We have all these other amazing rabbis that know everything, that already have it all, that it's like a computer, that it's like ChatGPT before it was invented. They have it all. You ask the question, obvious, there's a Gemara here, a Gemara there, the Halakha says this, the Ashkenazim do that. It's very simple, why are you asking? So what's the point? Why am I doing it? And the answer that I found, and my cousin John was telling, Rabbi John was, when we were learning together, we had the same dilemma. He was telling me that because we all have our own unique skills and our own unique influences. If you compare to the greats, it's nice, but we're not them, they're not us. Our job is to be the best you can be. And that involves everything. That involves in business, that involves in your personal life, that involves all around. And once I was able to acknowledge and accept that, it enabled me to not just dismiss, I can't do this. What's the point? We have people that are better. You have already more better professionals. But on the contrary, let me refine my craft. Maybe I can contribute in a way that they can't. The disconnect with the generation or nuances that I can understand. Not that I'm smarter, but I grew up in this era. They didn't. And I justified it and I pushed and that was my motivation to get involved and to study and to learn. Do I know everything? Of course not. But I'm learning and I'm growing and we're trying to get there and trying to be influential and help others out. That's why, I'll wrap up with this. That's why in the beginning of the parasha, Rashi says, Mitoch chibatan lefanav moneh otam kol sha'ah. This is the second or third time that the Torah counts the Jewish people. Why? Rashi says, because he loves us, he counts us so frequently. The analogy is like when you have a lot of money, when you have a big pile of cash. I don't know, no one deals with cash anymore, it's all credit card. But if someone has a big pile of cash, they don't just count it once when they're paying something off. They count it once, they count it again, even count it a third time. Can you double check when you get the money? Why? Because it's precious. Same thing Hashem does with us. Because he loves us and he cares for us on an individual basis, he counts us again and again and again. And something that we have to see in this week's parasha, and don't shy away from it, but champion it, be empowered by it, and say, I do matter. My 1 minute of tefillin every day makes a difference. My $1 I give to tzedakah makes a difference. My one amidah a day. You're what? Yeah.
I haven't missed a day.
Very good. You're in our chat, I don't know. I have to add you to this. You're in the survivor chat?
I'm in like 3 of them.
No, we have a survivor chat.
Survivor chat? For Omer?
Older guys. Tell David Kaladi to add you guys.
What does the winner get?
I don't know if we know. I don't think we had anything on the line this year, but it's like a committee. It's like a, what's it called? Like a support group.
Yeah.
Lahavdil, like addicts. It's like a support group. That you have to.
Is it the big Machadi one?
No, that's a separate one. That it gets forwarded to this chat, but it's a small support group to remind you of the Omer. Exactly. Your Omer every single night makes a difference. Hashem cares for it because it builds that relationship and it reminds us that we matter. We very easily can dissolve and disappear into the computer, become NPA or NPCs, right? Non-playable character. Yeah. You can very easily become an NPC, go at home and just stare at the wall all night. That's not what we're here to create. Hashem put it in neshama on us. He invested in us. Every morning, he gives us life again because he believes in us and he knows we can achieve. And it's our job to highlight and identify where our skills are. If I'm making money, maybe I'm going to be a guy who gives tzedakah. If I have pull, I'll use my pull for Torah. If I'm influential, if I'm a good thinker, I'll get involved in the community. I'll advance. I'll get involved in the boards. If I have strength and I have koach and I have energy, I'll go do tzedakah I'll go do chesed with my body. Volunteer for Tomchei Shabbat, help people out, go to old age homes. These things are so foreign for us in America, but what's stopping us from going to the hospital 10 minutes, 8 minutes, from here, 6 minutes down the street, getting a list of the Jewish patients and walking in and saying, hi, how are you feeling? I'm just here to lift your spirit. It sounds so crazy, but why is it crazy? We have to think outside the box, look at ourselves in the mirror and see, how can I help? How can I contribute? I'm not an NPC. Hashem cares about me. The fact that I woke up this morning means Hashem wants me here. I have a purpose and I have a goal. And that's what Hashem wants for us to learn before Shavuot, before Matan Torah, the holiday of receiving the Torah, that we all matter. Hashem counted us back then, and He still individually, each person, each Jew is counted. We're important. He cares about us, and without us, the whole picture, the Klal Yisrael, is missing. It's lacking. We're an integral piece of the puzzle. Don't shy away from it. Don't be intimidated by it. But understand that as we continue to mature and grow, we build ourselves, build our businesses, we build our lives up. It's our job to constantly be looking ourselves in the mirror and say, how can I help? How can I contribute? How can I give back? What can I do for the people around me? Because the best way to take is to actually give. When you give, you're actually taking, and it's a deep idea. It applies in relationships, it applies in tzedakah, it applies in our personal lives. And Torah wants us, the reminder, according to this book, After Yon Shelamo, is very simple, is before you get up to Shavuot, remind yourself that you matter. Each one of us matters, regardless of where we rank ourselves on the totem pole, on the rankings of observance. Rabbi Chaim is number one, I'm over here. Regardless of where you think you fall on the rankings, you're on the rankings, and you're important. And everything you do, small or big, every tefillah, every tefillin, every tzitzit, every dollar, every chesed, every smile makes a difference. And Shavuot, before we get to Shavuot, we have to remember that and champion it as we approach the holiday. Chazak ubaruch.